Eli sat by the small heater in his cabin, listening to the cold wind outside. The mining colony was quiet at night, too quiet sometimes. He poured himself a cup of recycled coffee, the taste still bitter like every other night he had come to. This planet for peace, for silence, but tonight something felt wrong. There was a knock on the door, loud and rushed. Eli stood up slowly, opened it, and saw his neighbor, old Ron, breathing heavy. "Eli," Ron said, looking around nervously. "You locked your door, right?" Eli raised an eyebrow. "No, why?" Ron leaned in close, his voice shaking. "She's active, the alien girl. The sister in heat. It started tonight." Eli blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Ron stepped back, whispering, "Just listen to me. Human females get moody, sure, but these girls, when the heat starts, they don't think. They feel. They hunt warmth. They hunt scent." Eli laughed a little. "You're being dramatic. I saw her near the fuel tanks." "Breathing hard, eyes glowing," Ron said, his voice trembling. "Please lock your door, or she come to you." And with that, the old man left into the night. Looking back twice, Eli closed the door, thinking it was all nonsense. He had seen the alien girl once, tall, thin, and quiet, with pale blue skin and sharp ears. She rarely spoke, always looking down, always avoiding people. He had no reason to fear her, or even think of her. Still, something about Ron's face bothered him. Eli walked to the door, hand on the lock, but then he stopped. The wind howled outside, and the cabin creaked. He chuckled to himself. "I'm not scared of ghost stories," and left the door wide open. Hours passed and the night grew colder. Eli lay on his bed, reading from his tablet. The heater hummed, and his eyes grew heavy. Then he heard it, something light, soft, not wind, not metal, but steps. His heart beat faster. He turned his head toward the hallway. The door was still open, letting in a thin line of cold mist, and in that mist stood a shadow. She stepped into the light slowly, barefoot, shaking. Her eyes glowed a soft violet. Her breathing was uneven. It was her, the alien girl. Her name was Sarah. He remembered now. Her hair floated slightly like it was underwater, her skin glistening as if she had a fever. Eli sat up fast. "Hey, are you okay?" Sarah didn't answer. She took another step inside, the door closing behind her as the wind pushed it gently. She stood near the wall, trembling, clutching her arms. I can't stop it," she whispered, her voice almost broken. Eli stood, frozen, unsure what to do. He remembered Ron's words: heat, scent, warmth. Was this what the old man meant? Sarah dropped to her knees, gasping softly. Eli rushed to her side, but didn't touch her. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "I didn't want to come, but my body." Her voice cracked as she looked away in shame. "I believe you," Eli said softly. He brought a blanket and draped it over her shoulders. She flinched at first, then slowly relaxed under the warmth. Her body still shook like fire lived inside her. Eli grabbed water, knelt down, and handed it to her. She drank. Slowly, hands shaking, her eyes never leaving his face. "I'm not dangerous," she said, "but it's hard to think, hard to control." He nodded. "You don't need to do anything, just rest." She looked down, whispering something in her own language. Then she curled up on the floor, still wrapped in the blanket. Eli sat nearby, unsure if he should stay awake or sleep, but as the heater buzzed quietly, he leaned back against the wall, thinking. She wasn't what he expected. She was frightened, sick. Not some wild creature like Ron made her sound, but there was still something strange, something dangerous in the air, not from her, but from the heat rising in her body, and the way she stared at him sometimes, like something inside her was just waiting. He closed his eyes for a moment, and then he felt it. A hand gently touched his wrist. He looked down and saw her fingers there, light and cold. She was asleep, maybe, or half awake, but her lips moved and she whispered just two soft words. "Don't leave." Eli woke up to a strange warmth near his side. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, But when he opened his eyes, she was there, curled up on the floor, her hand still resting on his wrist. Her skin glowed faintly in the dim cabin light. Her breathing was slow but heavy, like her body was still burning from inside. He didn't move, didn't want to startle her. She looked peaceful now, like a sleeping child after a long cry. But something about her made the air feel heavier, warmer, too quiet. He carefully pulled his hand back, stood up, and walked to the kitchen corner as he poured water into a small metal cup. He heard her whisper again. "You're still here," she said, her voice dry and soft. Eli turned around and nodded. "Yeah, I'm here." She sat up slowly, holding the blanket tight around her. "I thought you would send me away," she said, not meeting his eyes. "I didn't know where to send you," Eli replied. "And you looked sick." She looked down at her hands, fingers trembling. "My body does this every season," she said. "It burns from the inside, makes my mind foggy, makes my instincts louder." Eli stayed silent, unsure of what to say. Sarah continued. "It's why my own people avoid me during this time." Eli pulled a chair closer. "Do you want food?" She shook her head. "No, just talk to me." He sat down, unsure why her voice sounded so small. Maybe she wasn't dangerous at all. Maybe she was just alone for too long. "I remember when I first saw you," Eli said slowly. "At the water station, you didn't even look at me." Sarah smiled faintly. "I was afraid." "Of me?" "Of everyone," she whispered, "but mostly of myself." The wind outside howled louder now, snow brushing against the window glass like whispers. The colony's silence felt deeper, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Sarah stood up slowly, her knees weak, the blanket dragging behind her. She looked around his cabin, touching objects gently, like they might break. "I've never been inside a human home before," she said, voice filled with wonder. "You chose a strange night to visit," Eli said with a small smile. She paused near his bookshelves, reading, the spines with curious eyes. "I used to read too," she said, "before everything changed." "What changed?" "My brother died," she said, her voice cracking just a little. "After that, I lost my place in my clan. No one had space for the sister in heat anymore." Eli stood up, unsure why those words hit so hard. He walked to the heater, increased its power slightly, then turned to her. "You're not a burden," he said firmly. Sarah looked at him for the first time without fear, her eyes shining. "You're the first person to say that," she whispered. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed outside like static, crackling across the sky. Sarah tensed, her glowing eyes flickering. "What was that?" Eli asked. She moved toward the window and peered through the fogged-up glass. "Solar interference," she said. "Your communications are going to be cut soon." Eli reached for his comms device and checked it was already dead. Sarah turned to him, her face pale. "That means no one can call, and no one will come." He nodded slowly, the weight of isolation settling in. They were truly alone now. Sarah sat back down on the floor, her body curled like a question mark. Her skin looked damp, her face glowing brighter now. "The second wave is starting," she said. "It gets harder to think after this." Eli knelt beside her. "What do you need?" "Nothing," she said. "Just stay near, please." He nodded, stayed by her side, and wrapped another blanket around her. Time passed slowly, the cabin filled with warmth and silence. Then her voice came again, softer than ever. "When the heat reaches its peak, some girls lose their mind," she said. "They do things they don't remember, things they regret forever." Eli looked into her eyes. "That's not going to happen here." She blinked, surprised. "Why?" "Because I'll be here, and I'll remind you who you are." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she reached out, barely touching his shirt sleeve. "You're not like the others," she said, her breath shaky. "And you're not what they say you are," Eli replied. The heater buzzed quietly, the wind screamed outside. But inside that small cabin, something calm was growing between them, a connection neither of them expected. And yet, both of them feared what the next night Might bring, because Sarah's cycle wasn't over yet, and the second wave had only just begun. The room was quiet, too quiet. Eli had fallen asleep sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, but Sarah hadn't slept. She sat near the heater, watching the flames behind the metal screen, her fingers twitching. Inside her body, something was rising like a storm, not pain, not fever, something deeper, stronger, ancient. She bit her lower lip, trying to stay calm. Her skin itched, her muscles ached, and her thoughts were fogged. She could smell him from here. His scent was strange. Unlike any alien or male she had known, it made her instincts scream. But her heart whispered something else. Don't hurt him, it said, not him. The cabin lights flickered for a second, then returned. Eli opened his eyes, noticing the change. You okay? He asked, voice low and sleepy. Sarah turned her head slowly, her eyes glowing brighter now. I need cold air, she said, standing up quickly, swaying as she walked. Eli followed her to the door, grabbing a thick coat for her. Outside, the night was quiet, the sky filled with purple clouds and soft snow. She stepped into it barefoot, letting the cold bite her skin. Steam rose from her body as if she were fire itself. She knelt in the snow and closed her eyes. Breathing deeply, Eli stood near the doorway, watching, unsure if he should help or stay back. After a moment, Sarah looked up, her voice almost breaking. I was supposed to be taken to a mating temple this season, she said, but no one came for me. Ellie stepped closer. What would have happened there? They'd give me herbs to dull my heat, lock me in a room alone, wait until it ends, she said. But that's not living. He helped her up and let her back inside. Her body shivered as the warmth returned. Eli gave her warm towels and something to drink. Sarah sat wrapped in blankets, her hands still shaking. You don't know how dangerous this is, she said softly. You should be afraid of me. I'm not, Eli said calmly. I've seen danger, you're not it. She looked away, whispering. Then you don't understand, suddenly. Her breathing changed, quick and shallow. She clutched her chest and dropped to her knees. It's starting again, she gasped. The second surge. Eli rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed fully. He carried her gently to the bed, her body hot like burning metal. Sarah gripped the edge of the blanket and growled softly. I can feel everything, even your heartbeat, she said, eyes wild now. It calls to me. Eli didn't answer. Only brought cool water and a cloth to wipe her forehead. She hissed at the touch but didn't push him away. Her voice was no longer shy. It was low, deep, filled with ancient instincts that wanted control. But Eli saw the fear in her eyes too, the part of her still fighting not to hurt him. He leaned close and whispered, You're not alone anymore. Something inside her cracked. She started crying, hot tears running down her cheeks. No one ever says that to me, she said, sobbing. No one stays. Eli held her hand carefully, feeling the heat through her skin. I'm not leaving, he said firmly. The heater flickered again, and a faint hum filled the air. It wasn't from the machine, it came from her body. Sarah's skin glowed in a rhythm now, like waves pulsing under her skin. She looked terrified. My body's changing. It's choosing you. Eli stepped back, confused. What does that mean? If I bond with someone during this phase, it becomes permanent, she said. Our scents will mix, and I won't be able to live far from you again. He stared at her, stunned. And if I don't bond, my cycle could burn me out, she added. I could die. Outside, the wind howled louder, as if echoing her pain. Inside, time seemed to stop. Eli took a deep breath and sat beside her again. I don't know your customs, your biology, or your future, he said, but I'm not going to let you die here. Sarah looked at him, her breath catching, for a second. Her eyes softened, and then she leaned closer, not to kiss him, not to tempt him, but to rest her head on his shoulder, trembling. The heater hummed, the snow fell, and the two of them sat like that man and alien, caught between instinct and choice between survival and something neither of them dared to name. Asterisk, the power went out just after midnight. Everything inside the cabin died at once. The heater, the lights, even the emergency signal lamp. Only the wind remained, howling like a beast circling the house. Eli stood up at once, heart racing, the sudden cold creeping over his skin like invisible fingers. Sarah opened her glowing eyes in the dark, her body already reacting to the cold air and to something more. Something she felt growing deep inside her with every passing second. She spoke first, her voice quiet but shaking. "Third phase begins in darkness," she said, almost like she was remembering an old warning. Eli grabbed a flashlight, but it flickered and died too, no batteries left outside. He could see the stars through the frost-covered window, but inside, the darkness wrapped around them like a cloak. "I'll fix the heater," Eli muttered, stepping toward the panel, but Sarah caught his wrist, her grip hotter than fire. "No," she said quickly. "It's too late." Eli looked down at her. Confused, she sat up, breathing heavy, sweat sliding down her glowing skin. "This phase is worse," she whispered. "I feel like I'm breaking." Eli pulled her into more blankets, searching for anything to help. Her eyes were changing again, wider, brighter, as if her senses had gone beyond normal. She could hear his pulse, smell every shift of his breath. She shook her head and tried to crawl away from him. "I don't want to hurt you," she cried. "Please don't come close." But Eli didn't leave. He sat down just a few feet away and stayed silent, letting her see he wasn't afraid, letting her know he trusted her. The silence stretched, long and strange, filled with tension and heat. Then she said something in her native tongue. Fast and panicked, Eli couldn't understand, but the pain in her voice was clear. He slid one of his coats toward her without getting up. She took it and wrapped it around herself tightly, still shaking. Time passed strangely in the dark, sometimes. She growled low in her throat. Sometimes she whispered his name like a prayer. Sometimes she laughed softly, but it sounded broken. Eli could only listen, helpless and still. At one point, she began scratching at her skin, as if trying to pull something out. "Make it stop," she said, almost sobbing. "I would if I could," Eli whispered. "Tell me what to do." She looked up at him with glowing eyes full of pain and need. "You're already doing it," she said. "You're not running away." Her body moved like it was fighting itself. She would sit still for seconds, then shudder and curl up. Again, her instinct screamed to reach for Eli, to pull him close and claim him. But her heart whispered something softer, something new. Not just survival, but connection. Eli finally lay down on the floor again, just like the first night. "I'm not going to leave," he said again. "Even if it gets worse." Sarah turned her face toward him. Her eyes filled with something more than fire. Maybe it was sorrow, maybe gratitude, maybe both. Hours passed without sleep. The cabin stayed dark, the air grew colder, but her body stayed warm, too warm. Eli shivered once, and Sarah immediately crawled toward him. She didn't touch him, just lay beside him, close enough to share her heat. But her body trembled with effort, holding herself back. "If I bond with you by instinct, it won't be real," she said, voice strained. Eli nodded slowly, understanding. "Then don't," he said. "Just stay human with me, even if you're not." Her breath hitched, and a tear rolled down her cheek, steaming as it fell. "I wish I could stop what I am," she said. "You don't need to," Eli whispered. "Just don't forget who you are." Suddenly, a loud bang hit the roof of the cabin. Sarah jumped. Eli grabbed a tool like a weapon. They listened, tense. It wasn't wind. Something or someone had landed on the roof. Sarah's eyes widened. "They've come for me," she whispered. Eli stared at the ceiling, then back at her. "Who?" "My clan," she said, voice flat now. "To take me back. Or to end me." The wind roared louder, and the banging started again. Faster this time. Sarah stood up slowly, her body glowing in waves. "They can smell my bond forming," she said, "and they don't like it." Eli stood too, ready to fight. But Sarah grabbed his hand and said something he didn't expect. "If they take me, I won't survive the journey," she said, "but if I stay, I might lose control." He looked into her burning eyes, heart pounding, and then he said, "Then we fight for both our lives together." The roof creaked again, slow and heavy this time, like something or someone was crawling across it on all fours. Eli tightened his grip on the wrench in his hand. His breath was quiet, but sharp. Sarah didn't move. She stood in the center of the room, glowing faintly like a lantern in the dark. "They'll come through the ceiling," she said, her voice calm but her eyes wild. "How many?" Eli asked. She closed her eyes, sniffed the air once, and whispered, "3, maybe 4. All males." Eli stepped in front of her without thinking. "They'll have to go through me first." Sarah stared at him, stunned. "You're not my protector," she said softly. Eli didn't blink. "Too late, I already chose to be." The ceiling cracked above them, dust falling down like dry snow, then silence. Then a sudden crash would split open, and a figure dropped into the cabin. It wasn't huge, but it moved like a predator, crouched low, glowing eyes fixed on Sarah. Another landed behind it. Then another, 3 total, all tall, all lean, all glowing with a pale heat of their own. They didn't speak at first, just stared at Sarah like she was a broken object. One of them finally growled, "You bonded with a human?" Sarah stepped back, voice trembling. "No, he helped me survive. That is a bond." The largest one said, "It is forbidden." Eli stood between them, heart pounding. "I don't care about your rules," he said. She didn't choose this cycle, and she didn't hurt anyone. The aliens tilted their heads slightly, curious and cold. "You're not her mate," one of them said. "You're just heat bait." Sarah suddenly shouted, "Stop it!" Her voice echoed in the cabin like a pulse. The males paused, their glowing eyes narrowing. "I'm not a pet," she growled. "And I'm not returning to be caged again." The leader raised his hand, claws extending slightly. "If you resist, your bond becomes permanent," he said. "You'll never be accepted again." Sarah looked at Eli for just 1 second, and in that second, something changed. "I already made peace with that," she whispered. "He treats me like I matter." The leader stepped forward, but Eli swung the wrench wide. It cracked against the alien's arm, not breaking it, but shocking them all. Eli stood his ground. "She stays here." The second alien lunged, but Sarah moved faster. She knocked him back with a glowing shove, her hands pulsing with inner light. The cabin turned into chaos. Snow and wind rushed through the roof hole. One of the aliens leapt toward Eli, but Sarah caught him midair, throwing him into the wall. Eli ducked and kicked the last one, slowing him down long enough for Sarah to strike. They fought like 2 storms moving in sync, one made of fire, the other of will, and when the last alien fell to his knees, panting, the leader hissed, "You'll regret this, sister." "No," she said, glowing brighter now. "I'll remember this as the first time I chose myself." The males stood slowly, bloodless but defeated. One by one, they climbed out through the broken roof and vanished into the storm. The wind faded slowly, the night holding its breath again, and then silence returned. Eli leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Sarah knelt beside him, checking his arm where a scratch bled lightly. "You're hurt," she said, her voice softer again. "Only a little," he replied, smiling faintly. "I've had worse from mining drills." She laughed, breathless and trembling. Then she leaned closer and touched her forehead to his. "I didn't expect you to fight for me," she whispered. "I didn't expect to care this much," he whispered back. Her glow dimmed slightly, not from weakness but from peace. Her body was calming, her heat less wild, her breath less sharp. "You've slowed the storm," she said. "You didn't run, you didn't give me away." Eli nodded. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Outside, the stars reappeared. Inside, 2 souls sat close together, not by instinct, not by rule, but by choice. Asterisk. The silence after the fight was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that holds breath, waits, listens. Eli sat on the cold floor, holding his side, the ache spreading slowly. Sarah stood nearby, still glowing faintly, her fingers shaking from more than just exhaustion. Something inside her had changed, and she could feel it pulsing like a second heartbeat. The roof was broken, snow slipping in through the cracks. Eli placed a few boards over the hole, enough to keep the worst of the wind out. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Their hands brushed once as they worked, and Sarah pulled back quickly, but not because she was afraid. "I can feel it," she finally said, her voice low. Eli turned to her, confused. "My cycle." "It didn't end," she whispered. "It just shifted." He knelt beside her, worried. "Is it dangerous?" he asked. She nodded slowly, but not with fear. "Not to me," she said. "To others, maybe." Eli studied her face carefully, saw the glow in her cheeks, the soft shine in her eyes. "What changed?" he asked. Sarah looked down, touching her chest lightly. "You," she whispered. "You didn't take me, didn't command me, didn't claim me. And that made Body decide to bond with you." Eli sat back, stunned. "I didn't do anything," he said. She gave him a strange smile, one that looked almost human. "Exactly," she said. "And that's what made the bond stronger." Outside, the sky was clearing, soft blue light spreading across the frozen land. Inside, the cabin still smelled of fire, fear, and something new, something warmer. Sarah walked to the broken window and stood there, silent. Eli approached slowly, unsure if he was welcome. She didn't move away when he stood beside her. "Do you regret it?" she asked without looking at him. "Regret what?" "Letting me in." Eli took a deep breath, the air cold but sharp. "No," he said. "I just wish I knew what this meant now." She turned to face him, the snowlight reflecting in her eyes. "It means I won't survive far from you now," she said. "It means I'm yours, in a way no one else can be." Eli swallowed hard. "That sounds a little scary," she nodded. "It is." There was a sound outside, a new one, soft humming, rhythmic and strange. Sarah froze, her head tilting slightly. "That's not the wind," she whispered. They rushed to the door, opened it, and looked out. Down in the distance, a small light hovered above the snow, blinking slowly. "A drone," Eli muttered. "Someone scouting. From the clan?" Sarah asked. Eli narrowed his eyes. "No, that's human tech colony security." Her face went pale. "If they see me, they'll report it. And if they find out what we fought last night, they'll take you for questioning." Without a word, Sarah grabbed the blanket and wrapped herself up tight. Eli rushed to the comm panel. It was still dead, no way to send a warning. The drone hovered closer, scanning the ground. Sarah backed into the shadows, eyes filled with fear again. "I can't be seen like this, not while I'm still glowing." Eli made a decision. Fast and quiet, he ran outside, waving his arms. Coughing into the cold air, the drone turned toward him, scanned his body, and flashed red for a moment. "Warning," the machine said. "Radiation levels detected." Eli pretended to fall to the ground, shaking. "Emergency. Quarantine protocol," the drone buzzed. "Dispatching med unit, back in the cabin." Sarah watched through a crack in the door. She saw Eli lying in the snow, faking illness to protect her. Her chest ached, not from heat, not from hunger, from something warmer, sharper, a kind of pain she'd never known before. The drone flew away, leaving a red trail behind. Eli stood up slowly, teeth chattering. Sarah pulled him inside at once, her hands pressed against his frozen cheeks. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. "Because I promised I wouldn't let anyone take you," he replied. She held his face with both hands, their foreheads touching again. "I'm starting to feel things that don't come from the cycle," she said. "I think." "I am too," he whispered back. The wind outside was calm now, but inside, something powerful had begun, something that had nothing to do with survival, something both deeper and more dangerous. Because instincts fade, but feelings stay, and Sarah's cycle wasn't over yet, but something far more permanent had already started. Eli didn't sleep that night, not because of danger, but because of what he saw in Sarah's eyes. They weren't glowing with heat anymore. They were glowing with something else, something gentler, something she didn't have words for. She sat by the window, wrapped in 2 blankets, staring at the sky. The storm had passed. The stars returned. Her body wasn't shaking anymore, her breath steady, but inside her, a new kind of warmth had taken root. "The bond is complete," she said softly. Not turning her head, Eli looked up from the floor, sitting with his back against the wall. "What does that mean?" he asked. Sarah smiled a little, the kind of smile that carried both joy and fear. "It means I'll never forget your scent, your voice, or your touch." Eli walked over and sat beside her, knees brushing gently. "And what happens now?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "In my world, a bond like this is rare," she whispered. "Usually forced, never chosen." She paused, fingers tightening around the blanket. "But I chose this," she said. "I chose you." Even when my instincts were louder than my thoughts. Eli stared at her quietly, letting the silence speak for them both. He reached out and touched her hand. She didn't pull away. "You've changed," he said. She nodded. "Yes, permanently?" Her voice shook slightly. "Yes." Before Eli could respond, the comm unit crackled to life. A voice came through, sharp and official. "Sector 9, we have detected illegal alien presence. All residents prepare for a cabin inspection." Sarah's eyes went wide. "They're coming," she whispered. "The humans, your own people." Eli stood up fast, heart pounding. He looked at her glowing skin, the soft color rising again in her cheeks. "If they see you like this, they'll take you," he said. "They'll run tests, isolate you." She stood slowly, calm but certain. "Then we give them a story they can't undo." Eli turned, confused. "What do you mean?" Sarah stepped close, voice firm. "We show them we're already bonded under your law." Eli's eyes widened. "You mean marriage?" "In your words, yes," she said. "If I'm your mate under human customs, they can't take me without your permission." Footsteps echoed in the snow outside, boots crunching slowly. The inspection team had arrived. Sarah's glow dimmed as she stood beside Eli, wrapping herself in one of his jackets. Her voice was low, but steady. "Do you trust me?" Eli nodded. "With my life." The knock on the door came sharp and quick. Eli opened it, face calm. 3 officers stood there, weapons holstered but eyes sharp. "We received reports of unusual heat signatures," the lead said. Eli stepped aside. "We had a fire last night. Heating problem. It's under control." Their eyes scanned the cabin, stopping on Sarah. "Who's she?" Eli didn't blink. "My wife." The words hung in the air like thunder. Sarah looked at him, and for a moment, her breath caught. The officers exchanged a glance. "Alien-human union must be registered," one muttered. "It is," Eli lied. "Check the records under Eli Grant and Saren Vell." They hesitated, then nodded slowly. "We'll verify it, but if it's true, she's under your protection now." The team left a moment later, boots fading into the distance. The door closed again. Silence returned. Eli turned to Sarah, unsure what to say. But she smiled, soft and wide. "You called me your wife," she said, voice shaking. "You didn't deny it," he replied. She stepped forward, placed her hand over his heart. "This cycle is over," she said. "But I don't want to leave, not ever." Eli wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "You're home now." Outside, the snow stopped falling. Inside, 2 hearts, one human, one alien, beat together in calm silence. It wasn't just instinct anymore. It wasn't just survival. It was something real, something chosen, and it all began because he left his door open.